Hello, Nebraska, and welcome to this week's edition of the Retirement Compass, the show dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have two members from Stonebridge Wealth Systems based right here in Nebraska, Tim Kulhanek, who is the co-founder, and Jeremy Gove, who is a partner. Tim, Jeremy, it's great to be back with you. Hope you are doing well.
Doing great.
Yes, doing
Thanks.
well, thank you.
Well, we appreciate you watching and joining us today. We have a really great jam-packed show full of information today. We're going to be talking about the Secure Act. And before we get into that, just a little story to kind of set this up that I think really puts it into perspective. And I know we talked about this before, and it is a good analogy. Back in 1985, the CEO of the Coca-Cola Corporation at the time, Roberto Goizueta, I hope I'm saying his name correctly there, he introduced the company's latest innovation, which was known simply as New Coke. Anybody remember that?
Yes.
When that came out, right? And so some stated that it was the most boldest single marketing move in the history of packaged goods. They simply called it the surest move we've ever made. But as we all know, those who loved Coca-Cola Classic didn't have the same reaction. I also remember when Clear Pepsi came out. You remember that? And it was just such a mind trip. I was like, as a kid, I was like, this is not Pepsi.
Yeah.
But that change did not go over very well. There's a lot of companies that have made decisions they thought would go over well. They have not gone over well. And so what my question is now, people are like, what are we talking about today? How does Coke's fizzled attempt at innovation relate to this Secure Act?
Yeah, fizzled attempt.
Right.
I see what you did there. Yeah, so let's talk about the Secure Act. So what is it? What does it mean for me? So let's just start with the basics. Setting every community up for retirement enhancement. Secure. So everything has to be.
Gotta love the acronyms.
And I don't know if it's an acronym or an initialism. There's some debate now. Is that an initialism? Doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is it was signed into law in December, I believe December 20th of 2019. So it was a Trump administration era law. And it was the first major retirement legislation actually since the Pension Protection Act of 2006. So a lot of time had gone by. Sometimes I feel like Congress, just like enough time goes by, they feel like they need to do something.
Right, to make it look like they're doing stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So see, this is why you should pay us. And so that's where the analogy to New Coke goes, is if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's kind of the same saying that would be apt here. So the consequences of this law, which we're going to talk about today, are going to be felt for generations. It made massive changes to 401ks and IRAs, specifically how those distributions, your distributions from those accounts are going to be required to come out. So we're going to use terms like RMDs, required minimum distributions, RBD, required beginning date. That's all changed. And the biggest, I think, thing is what it's done for your beneficiaries. Effectively, what the Secure Act has done, and this is important, I want folks to listen to this. It has turned the 401k, traditional 401k and IRA, into a growing, building, ticking tax time bomb. We have to fix that.
Yes, this ticking tax time bomb. I have heard that as well. I have used that phrase. I think it's really important for folks to understand what the heck we are talking about, because that's exactly what it is. So what do you mean when we're using that term?
Well, so let's start with what seems like a positive, right? Okay. I'm using the term seems, since we're going to use parentheses. So historically, you had to take an RMD when you were 70 and a half, right? And so once you turned 70 and a half, or the year following that, you had to take your money out of your 401k or your IRA or any tax qualified account. Okay. That changed. So it got pushed back to age 72. And then now this last year got pushed back to 73. So if you were going to start your RMDs and you turned 73 in 2023, that's when you would start it as age 73. Now it's in 2033, it's actually pushed back to age 75. So the fact that the government, we always talk about IRAs and how you have a partner in your IRAs, and we always tell people, the government is your partner in your IRA,
Yes,
and they
Uncle
own about
Sam.
whatever your tax rate is, they own that percentage of your IRA. And so on the surface, that looks like that's a good thing, right? Because they're saying, as your partner, we're not going to make you pull out money as soon as you would have had to earlier on. And so that's where that's what we're trying to call it, or I don't know if I'm trying to call it or if it is a good thing. I don't know.
But here's the thing. Okay, so they might position it as a good thing, but I think all of us at this desk would argue that they're doing it in their best interest. So let's phrase it that way. Why is it in the best interest of the government to keep delaying this required minimum distribution age?
Yeah, I think you have to ask the question, like, why, so what would be basically their motivation is what we're asking.
Right.
And let's just take a quick kind of step back and survey the landscape. Tax rates, are they high or low right now?
They're the third lowest that they've ever been in
Correct.
history.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that, but we are in a very low tax environment.
Yeah, so if you ask, when we go to our workshops, we say our tax rate's high, we ask that question, they kind of shrug their shoulders like, they seem pretty darn high to me, Tim, you know? Especially if those farmers with those allergies are in there to the taxes. So we all feel like they're high, but as you stated accurately, Kristen, they're low. Well, how much did the government overspend by, let's just say, 2023 fiscal year? 1.7 trillion. How many years is a trillion seconds? About 34,000, something like that. So a lot, we're talking about a lot of money. So what could they do to close the gap? Well, they have two options. They can spend less, or they could
raise
taxes. So here they are, they're delaying, saying, you don't need to take this money out. You know, we're in our infinite goodness, we're gonna let you delay further. But it's a classic boiling frog in the pot type of situation.
Yes, which I've heard this analogy before, and I think it's really important to explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so if you throw a frog into boiling water, it will hop out.
Right.
If you put a frog into a pot of water and slowly turn the temperature up, he's gonna feel nice and cozy and warm and like, oh man, this is a day at the spa, before he knows that he's cooked and you're having frog legs.
And doesn't even realize that the water got turned
Never
over.
Had no idea.
Never knew.
Yeah.
That's what the government, in my opinion, is doing here. So let's look at, again, just the facts. As I reference often, Boston University professor Larry Kulhanek, he has said that the government would have to have $239 trillion in an account today, earning treasury rates, just to be able to keep all the promises they've made for things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the debt for the next roughly 70 years. That doesn't count for anything like national defense, education, transportation, all the other departments, you know, the bureaucracy that we have come accustomed to in this country. So let's reference one other famous person. A lot of people out there probably haven't heard of this individual. This is Judge Learned Hand. So Learned Hand, he was probably the most famous, I'd say, judicial official that never made it to the Supreme Court. So in the Heller ruling, he made a famous quote, and he said, anyone may arrange his affairs so that his taxes shall be as low as possible. He is not bound to choose that pattern which best pays the Treasury. There is not even a patriotic duty to increase one's taxes. We feel like we're pretty patriotic here at Stonebridge. You know, we support our country. We support especially members of the military. I'm the son of a veteran, actually. One of our partners, Jeff, served in the military. We feel like we're pretty patriotic, but we don't feel like there's any reason for us to pay the maximum taxes. There's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. One of them's illegal. One of them, as Judge Learned Hand just told us, is not. So what our goal is for our listeners, our viewers out there, is to help them ensure that they're not paying 1 cent more than what they are required to pay to the Treasury, because again, there's not even a patriotic duty to do so.
And it's interesting because I think, and we're going to get more into this about the ticking tax time bomb and why delaying the RMDH is creating that specifically for beneficiaries. So much more to get into. But if someone's watching today and they're going, gosh, I want to make sure that I am engaging in the right strategies to pay the least amount to the IRS that I'm legally required to pay, if they need to really look at their financial plan and see how the Secure Act is impacting it, what would you say to that individual?
Well, so, I mean, I guess the easy answer is give us a call. If you're sitting at home and you're not sure, then that means that there's a plan that is being made by or for you by the government. So you can either let the government put your plan together or you can put the plan together. And so I would encourage you to just give us a call, talk to somebody on our team, and they'll be able to walk you through it and tell you, here's the issues. There's different things that we need to look at, we need to address. So give our team a call. We're all experts in dealing with these tax issues and bringing solutions to those problems.
For sure. Well, I'm excited. We have a lot more to get into. But yes, if you're at home and you would like some help navigating your financial situation, what the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems is ready and willing to offer you is a complimentary written financial plan. To claim yours, all you need to do is call 866-256-7778. Or if you'd rather not talk to someone right now, but you have your smartphone handy, you're welcome to simply pull it out. And if you open up that camera app, you can point, click, and scan that QR code down down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary visit that way as well. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carolyn 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back, Nebraska. You're watching the Retirement Compass, brought to you by the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with both Tim Kulhanek and Jeremy Gove. We are talking today about the Secure Act, and it's always a tongue twister to be able to spell out what it is. Setting every I can't even say it now.
Community.
All right, setting every community up for Retirement Enhancement
There we go.
Act. Yes.
Nice
And we
work.
had Secure 1.0. We've also had Secure 2.0. With that has come some significant changes that you need to be aware of as it relates to your retirement planning. And so, Jeremy, let's talk about some of the other significant changes that the Secure Act has introduced for folks.
Yeah, so we talked about RMDs and how that's maybe a good thing or maybe not. And this is where I think it's a negative. So when we're talking about beneficiaries, there used to be something called a stretch IRA. So if I was a beneficiary and I inherited money from you, typically what's happening in my life when I'm inheriting this money? I'm probably earning, I'm at one of the higher ends of my career, so I'm earning a lot more money than I would have been like 20 years ago. So I'm inheriting this money at a time where I don't really need it right now.
Right.
And so that's one of the problems. But with a stretch IRA, I could take that money and I could stretch that out over my lifetime. So I could take those distributions out over the next 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So it is going to affect me. I'm going to pay tax on it, but it's over a long time frame, right? But now that is gone. That is not even an option anymore. So you have to take money out of these accounts in 10 years. So going back to what I was originally saying, if you're inheriting money, you're typically in, like I said, one of the top earning years
right.
of your life, right? And so if I've got some clients that inherited some IRAs and they're earning about $250,000 a year just on their own, and now they have about $300,000 of IRAs that they got to distribute over the next 10 years. So at a minimum, that's $30,000 a year. Assuming there was no growth, hopefully we're doing a good job for them and that will grow. And so we don't even know what that number will be, but it's going to be expensive.
Which
they're going
means
to give
they're
up
now going to be in a higher tax bracket
exactly.
themselves. Right.
So instead of that being a huge boom for the beneficiary, now it's a big tax bill.
Yes.
And that's where we feel like it's kind of a sleight of hand type of situation. We're going to give you something that makes you feel a little better, and we're yanking it out.
Right. Well, in the 10 years, I think it's important to talk about, and we alluded to this in the first segment, it's in the interest of the government to do away with the stretch IRA because they need the money now. We are $34 trillion in debt and counting. And they know that over the next several years, $84 trillion is set to pass from one generation to the next. They want their hands on that money. That's why they have now said you have to take out this money over 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to take it from your kids is kind of what I was getting at the end of the first segment there. And that's putting it bluntly, but that's the reality,
Yeah.
is they want you to feel comfortable and be that frog in the pot, just enjoy enjoying a warm bath, because eventually that they're going to take. Yeah, I mean, I'm not calling you frogs.
The imagery
okay?
there, right? Yes, but no, but that's what taxes do to us. We are like frogs in boiling pots without realizing
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So let's break it down further. So Jeremy mentioned that there's some changes there. For most people, they're going to fall in that 10-year bracket, but really there's 3 different categories, okay? So Congress created the NDB, non-designated beneficiary, then NEDB, non-eligible designated beneficiary, and then the EDB, eligible designated beneficiary.
Which, just side note, they make it so confusing with these acronyms. So I'm
And
glad
why do
you're
they do that,
explaining.
right?
They want people to be confused. All right, let's go through each one.
Well, that's a reason why honestly, they're better off if people don't call, because the more confused you are, the more that it's going to benefit the government, because the more mistakes are going to be made, and the more PLRs they can write saying sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Which is why we're doing this show. But
Yep.
here's what I want to. So, have you guys traveled? You travel a lot,
I
Kristen.
travel a lot, yes.
So this might not apply to you, because you probably have a little bit different air travel scenario than Jeremy and I. But for most
back of the
people,
plane.
yeah, it's just not what it used to be, right? I remember when I was a kid, we flew out to Bakersfield, California. So we flew into Burbank, and it was 1996. We went from Denver to Burbank, flew on a DC-10, McDonnell Douglas. Everybody got, some chicken or something, you could be in the back of the plane and they still were going to throw some rubber chicken at you to eat, Not like that anymore.
No,
So
not
it's
at
just not what it used to be. Same thing with these IRA distribution rules. They're just not what they used to be. So keeping on that airline kind of train of thought, this first category, non-designated beneficiaries, that's like Spirit Airlines, okay? That's the back row of Spirit Airlines where your seat won't recline, and there's 2 sumo wrestlers who just got done, and because they didn't have enough time, they didn't hit the showers, and so you're squished between these 2 guys.
I'm just cringing.
I'm sorry about the imagery.
And you have to pay for a carry-on, right?
Yeah,
or
and-
to
well,
even bring anything on.
You know what they're saying is right. Spirit Airlines, where nothing is free and we're not happy until you're not happy. So that's in NDB. That's a non-designated beneficiary. This is going to be things like, an estate or a charity. Folks, just don't leave your IRAs to an estate. Okay, it's just not a good idea. I don't know what we're gaining. Even if you're told by maybe a legal professional, hey, just run it through your estate, it'll go through your will. Yeah, your beneficiaries will eventually get it after they lose like 40, 50% of it to taxes. So let's just not do that. We don't want to be Spirit Airlines. The next is going to be the NEDB, non-eligible designated beneficiary, and that's like economy or coach. If you're on a train, I guess technically it's coach. For a plane, it's economy. This is where most people are going to fall. This is going to be things like children, over the age of 21, grandchildren, and some what we call look-through trusts. So if maybe you have a revocable trust, and then if you look through it, the beneficiaries of the trust are individuals. They have to be, they can't be non-entity or non-humans. They have to be like kids or grandkids or something like that. If it's a entity, then it's going to disqualify you from sitting in coach or economy. So this is where most people are going to fall, and this is that 10-year time frame,
Right.
where depending on whether or not the person had reached the required beginning date, you have to either continue taking distributions due to what's called the at least as rapidly rule, or you can wait till the end of the 10th year if they hadn't reached their required beginning date and have it all cashed out at once. But the bottom line is 10 years and you're done. The last one is probably where Kristen gets upgraded to, and that is
Only because I've flown way too much.
way too much, right? I think I got kicked out of here one time. No, I didn't, but it's first class. It's where you want to be. It's the catbird seat. And so this is going to be things like surviving spouses, minor children of the account owner, not grandchildren, disabled individuals, and individuals not more than 10 years older, so think like, or 10 years younger, so think of like a sibling. This is where you can still do that stretch IRA. So this is, again, the best position to be in because you can still stretch that out over your lifetime. Here's what happens when you're not in the catbird seat. And I'm not going to put you back in Spirit Airlines here. I'm just going to put back in economy and coach where most people are. Had a client who last year she passed away unexpectedly, prematurely, and she was in her 60s. She hadn't reached her required beginning date, but her daughter, who files single, makes about $70,000 a year. It's good income. She inherited all this money. She inherited about $550,000 in pre-tax IRA dollars. Okay, so we have two choices. Do we start taking the money out now where tax rates are on sale, or do we wait until the end of the 10th year? Well, daughter's like 30 years old, 32 maybe.
Yeah.
Well, she's not going to be retired in 10 years.
Right.
So it's a lose-lose
probably earning
situation.
more
She'll
if
be
she
earning more.
continues, right, on
So
that
if we delay
trajectory.
it just creates a bigger problem 10 years from now, where the government would likely, according to people like David Walker, former Comptroller General of the Currency, potentially have to double rates from where they're at today. So what we're doing is we're taking the money out today, but she's losing about a third of it to taxes, her mom's hard-earned money, because we have this 10-year rule.
Well, and this is the tragedy in this too, because I think a lot of times when folks are doing their estate planning, they think they are leaving a gift to their children, to their loved ones, right? If I pass away, this money is going to be yours. Now what the Secure Act has done, it's created, as we said earlier, this ticking tax time bomb. The
100%.
tax burden is now on the children, and how sad to have to lose so much of that to taxes because of this change in law.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we need to work to fix this, right? As best we can.
That's the good news, is there are strategies that we can start implementing to mitigate the consequences of this.
Yep.
But again, you can't delay. You have to start implementing those strategies today. Otherwise, again, you're going to end up in a situation like this client did,
Right.
who there's no changing it once the unexpected happens. It's
Right.
too late to
Yep.
really go back and make any adjustments.
Well, I want to make sure we devote the rest of the show to going through some of those strategies so that
do
we
it.
can make sure we offer you some hope out there. But if you would like help, maybe this has piqued your curiosity. Maybe we're sharing some things today that you haven't thought of before or didn't realize. Listen, we're here for you. So we encourage you to pick up the phone and call 866-256-7778 so that you can claim your very own complimentary written financial plan. The team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems will be able to navigate all these changes from the Secure Act and what they might mean for you, and put these strategies in place so that you can mitigate that potential tax time bomb in your family. So we encourage you, call that number. You can scan that QR code to get connected, and we'll be back right after this.
My story started when I was in college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be in the financial industry. I took a lot of accounting and finance classes. I thought I'd probably work in like a bigger company and work my way through maybe the accounting department. But then when I was doing a internship the summer before my senior year, I walked into a business. I was trying to sell magazine ads. I don't know if I call it magazine ads, but basically ad space in the back of the UNK student handbook and planner, which was a difficult sell because, nobody uses pen and paper planners anymore, at least not college students. But I made my best pitch to some financial advisors. I happened to be Scott Noctegal that I met with that day. When I went for the close and tried to see if he was ready to sign up for some ad space, he said, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that, but it takes a lot of courage to have somebody to be willing to walk into a business, especially a business that really doesn't cater to your target audience, to put yourself out there in a way that the odds of you being successful are probably pretty low. That's the type of person we'd be looking for at our firm. Have you decided what you want to do? And I said, no, I really haven't, but I only want to work with finance because I like numbers, and math's always been my favorite subject, and working with kind of complex equations, almost like a puzzle. And so that's really where it all began.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Tim Kulhanek and Jeremy Gove. We've been diving deeply today into the Secure Act, what it means for you. There's been so many changes in just the last few years alone. We had Secure 1.0, then we had Secure 2.0, and we've been talking today about helping folks navigate this ticking tax time bomb that these legislative changes, these tax laws, what they've put into place is causing folks to have to navigate. We want to provide solutions. So let's talk about some of the strategies that you're able to do on the front end so that folks can really be proactive when it comes to these things.
Yeah, I think the first part, and we talk about this a lot, is coming in for a retirement readiness review. So we want to look at where you're at. We create a tax map so you can visually see what are the implications to these decisions.
Right.
Like we always talk about, every action has a consequence. And so we want to make sure that we know what those consequences are, and we take actions with I'll call them consequences, but the end result that we want to achieve. And so we talk a lot about doing Roth conversions. Those are more important now. And historically, we've always talked about Roth conversions for the client, but now we're talking about doing Roth conversions for the person that's going to inherit this money as much as for the client.
Right.
And so I think just coming in for a retirement readiness review and getting that tax map so you can see where you're at and see what the potential risks to your portfolio are. And then we can also design plans on how to overcome those issues.
Right,
So-
and the potential implications.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, and this really needs to be a family conversation in a lot of cases too, right?
Right.
Making sure both generations are on the same page with it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, okay, so we've definitely talked about some of the things that can be done on the front end. What direction, Tim, would you say that our viewers need to take in just understanding this law and really protecting the legacy for the future generations?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what Jeremy said, get a plan done. Most people don't, I think, have a comprehensive financial plan. So find an advisor who doesn't just look at your investments and say, hey, let's get these switched out. I think these mutual funds are only going to average about 7%. We can replace those with some that are going to do 8%. Usually when people go in to meet with an advisor, it's one of two things. Either they're told they've done it all wrong and they need to change everything, which is rarely the case. Usually a few minor tweaks is just going to benefit what you've already done correctly and started. Or two, they're just told, hey, you know, I can get you a better return. Well, I hope so, but I can't control the stock market any more than anyone else can. I don't have my crystal ball is as foggy as the next guy's. And so let's start using some strategies that we're talking about here to keep more money in your pocket. So, you know, check to see if a Roth conversion makes sense. We'll run an analysis for you to let you know whether or not it makes sense for you. Check to see who your beneficiaries are. Earlier in the last segment, I was trying to look for a word, non-natural entity. So don't put your estate as your beneficiary of your IRA. That's typically not a good idea. Now, if people are wondering how can they benefit from working with Stonebridge, well, I'm going to kind of give the Cliff Notes version of something that happened to a gentleman who didn't have an ally in his corner. It was in 2005. This is in the New York Post, called The Pension Pickle. Broke widower loses $1 million to in-law. And to paraphrase basically his wife of almost 30 years, or nearly 20 years, she was a school teacher in New York. When she started as a school teacher, her beneficiaries that she listed on the form were her mom, her uncle, and her sister. Her mom and her uncle had passed away. After she got married, they never updated the beneficiary form. So who was her remaining beneficiary?
The sister.
The sister. According to ERISA law, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, when she unexpectedly passed away in 2005, guess who got all that money?
The sister did.
The sister.
Yeah.
So over $900,000, and she would not talk to her brother-in-law. He lost out on almost $1 million. A simple form update would have fixed all of that.
Yes.
So that's the critical reason of working with somebody who understands what to look for and when can go a long way in keeping more money in your pocket.
Well, and I thank you guys, because today's been really informative. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and these legislative laws are changing all the time, and you need to make sure you're working with someone who's on top of it. We love you, Nebraska. We appreciate you watching. We look forward to being back with you next time.